I was trying to keep up with all my emojis, but you got ahead of me on that one.
Yeah, a little bit of Foo Fighters. Too bad Rob's not here.
I know.
The thing.
He's at the Carbon Energy Conference, I think, this week.
Yeah. So, welcome everybody to IoT Coffee Talk.
Welcome.
Yes.
And we have to first start off our podcast with our disclaimer, which is take us seriously at your own risk. Right. You should not be doing anything like serious in terms of financial stuff based on anything we say, because we're just having fun. That's
for sure.
Be forewarned. We're just having fun, you know?
Maybe do the opposite, actually. That might be the advice.
Well, no, Steve, that's still investment advice.
That's still advice. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's called the short.
Exactly.
These idiots are saying it's the way it's going to go. We're going to bet them completely the opposite. Hey, Yen, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
You know what? You have to change your name. Oh, my God.
Nice.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes. Everyone should have an IoT Coffee Talk shirt.
I know. Why didn't I should go get my hoodie on. I'll cut the camera.
Today I feel like Auburn University.
But come on, both of you guys. Oh, look at this guy. He
left.
He left.
He's going to go get his shirt on.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't know that there's like a video button, you know. Oh, yeah, these techno guys, right?
So last week we were talking about March Madness, and I was so proud of the Auburn Tigers, and they lost in the first round.
Oh.
So I'm wearing a T-shirt, and to support them, let them know I still love them.
All right. Okay. All right. You get a pass. You get a pass this time.
The Tigers.
There you go.
Good
Morning.
Come on here.
Hey, you.
Yeah. Shirt of mourning, or the hoodie of mourning. So. Yeah, what's going on, guys?
Well, still recovering from NVIDIA GTC, but I think you guys covered that pretty well last week. I know.
Yeah, I don't know if there. I mean, there was so much at that event. It was insane.
You feel recovered, Leonard?
Oh.
Leonard, do you feel recovered?
No, actually.
Busy.
Oh, you mean from GTC?
From GTC, yeah. You were busy, and Pete even more so. He didn't join us.
Yeah, I know. Pete was on a flight. Actually, that last day was really good because I got to spend a lot of time on the floor and meet up with a lot of companies. And man, I'm telling you, that's really where you get a lot of the information. Maybe I shouldn't disclaim this stuff or disclose this stuff, because maybe the AR teams will start to catch wind. But if you really think about it, the AR program is cool. They're really great, but they have a dual purpose. Number one, to let you know and give you access to the executives and the product and teams to get the messaging from them, right? What are the things and what you should emphasize. But sometimes these programs can be really consuming in terms of your time with customers and the vendors on the floor. And man, that last day I got so much. Everything else you kind of already know, even before you spend time in the program. So.
I did watch Jensen's the recording of his AR session. You were there. They just put that up, and I watched that yesterday. That was interesting to see him kind of wax poetic on the future.
Yeah,
I gotta watch that. Yeah, I haven't
check
seen
it out. He goes on and on. I mean, he's a talker, if for sure. But
It's like everybody's teaming up with NVIDIA right now.
Say what?
Exactly.
Everybody's teaming up with NVIDIA right now.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, they have. It's like where do we say this? They have platinum axes, and so everyone thinks that there's something more valuable than platinum up in some Californian hills somewhere. Everybody's, of course, but it's like what we've said on IoT Coffee Talk for a million years already, is that you can partner with 1 million people. If none of them produce revenue for you, none of them can figure out what to do with your technology or your widget. It's just a logo on a page,
Right.
So look.
But yeah.
And it can drain you. It can have the opposite effect too.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you have to put a lot of energy into it. It's got to be an accretive partnership. Partnerships work where you're filling the gap of someone else and vice versa. And there's always the option to not partner and just meet in the market and solve customer problems that way. Or you could kind of partner and proactively or preemptively work together. And that should result in more business than than not working together. And it's tough though to make those calls, because I think as a smaller company, you want to sort of attach your name to a bigger thing and show some momentum, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't produce incremental, business that would have otherwise happened, then
it just kind of diminishes into some some marketing.
Yeah, it's just press releases and
and then
logo slides.
Yeah, and that's the big problem.
And FOMO, right? Because it's like there's a side effect of FOMO, big time, in terms of partnering.
Yeah, but when you do get into some grounded conversations with folks, then you get a feel. You don't even have to say it, You know what I'm saying? You just look at their product, And I think that's like that's the thing about being experienced and proficient in sort of what we do and what I do as an analyst, right? It's people can there's like folks going, AI, generative AI is going to kill analysts. It's like, yeah, the bad ones. It'll kill off the bad ones.
Yeah.
They're just regurgitating press releases. They're not doing any kind of analysis. And you see a lot of reports out there. It's like, okay, you know what? If you can copy and paste that stuff from a press release or a spec sheet and then dump it into your report and then get a GPT, guess what? Anyone can do that.
Right.
They can't,
But I thought what's interesting though is that if you look at just this past month here, you got Honeywell, Siemens, and Rockwell all announcing NVIDIA partnerships.
Yeah. Well, they've had things going on. Let's not forget Microsoft.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're going around. They're pushing this stuff. They want people to play with it. They want to get POCs going, experiments going, because that's going to, for the moment, hydrate things. It's still the big question whether or not any of this stuff sticks, right? And it sticks in certain areas, but yeah, I was watching the Adobe,
yesterday,
and I noticed something very interesting that I don't think anybody else really picked up on. Their use of generative AI is very narrow. In other words, where it becomes useful, and this is exactly what my tenant in downtown San Diego, who's a renowned design artist, he told me, if you take a single layer, and so you might have a composition that might have 1,000 layers on it, right? You take one element, one layer, and then you affect something with generative AI in that element. What you're not typically going to see is somebody go and just generate something
from scratch.
from scratch and use that.
Right.
What they do is the way that they isolate and de-risk the use of generative AI, and this relegates generative AI to an ancillary function, not a primary. It's a big deal, okay? Is to isolate it with layers. And that's what they were doing. They were showing.
Yeah.
But everyone in the audience thought, wow, oh my God, it can do all this. So no, actually, for the creator, it can't do what people think it can do. It becomes very useful, though, in isolation, controlled isolation within the framework of the human creativity.
Right. Yeah, and I think for especially for Adobe, whose audience are creators, right? I mean, it's sort of like, how do you make generative AI a tool in the toolbox for your creation? And that's an important message. I saw a Grammarly ad the other day. It was online. I don't know. I can't remember anymore what screen I was looking at, but she's writing up a report. Blah blah blah. Grammarly. And then she's got 5 minutes left. She has to do a summary. And so she hits the button and it writes the summary for her. And I was kind of like, I get it. Like, that helps you go faster. But that might be, not really. Because the summary is kind of like the most important part, isn't it? I mean, that's what I remember. So,
but here's how the demos actually go. They put the demo in front of you. They press the button. Okay. And it doesn't quite work. It doesn't deliver exactly what you want. You press it again, and boom, there's something that can kind of be usable. And one of the great one example of that was when one of the executives was doing this demo of how you can there's like this masking tool that they have, a magic masking tool.
Right.
None of this stuff is novel other than a slight generative function. But they wanted to do a generative replacement of some thing in the photo that they just wanted to eliminate, right?
Right. Magic select.
So yeah, they did this generative AI replacement, and it was for any professional, even an amateur like me, could tell. Wait a minute, there's something wrong with this replacement image. And that you would have to do more work to integrate it in. Yes, it did something really interesting, meaning it eliminated this undesired object in the picture. Yeah. But the replacement wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And it wasn't finished. And so there's still going to be a human.
Sure. Well, this is where your master's in prompt engineering is going to come in handy, that master's degree in prompt engineering.
No, it's not. What you're going to do is you're going to use the basic tools that you have, or the tools that they're already there, to go and then fix it.
I see.
But that's still more work. And so, these folks that are going around saying, oh, it reduced my, those are like very, I think they're.
No, I know. I'm half joking, but you gotta, you guys haven't seen the Excelsior University offerings for masters and PhDs in prompt engineering. It's only $499. It's really.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's tons of offers out there right now. Yeah. It's interesting. I think the whole generative AI right now, at least in the States, is that it's good for getting ideas, good for getting a rough draft. Especially on the graphic side, I'm still surprised. Don't ask for anything that has text in it. Because we're just going to come up with some kind of really, really weird response that doesn't make any sense at all, which is kind of surprising to me when the generative AI started with text, right?
You're talking about ChatGPT in particular, or something?
Yeah, DALL-E and
Aura.
All of them right now. If you have anything that has text in it, that you, for example, if you want to have a text
in the graphics,
or the logo with text on it or whatever, and the text is just going to be complete.
They'll fix that. Throw some Blackwells at it, they'll fix it.
Yeah, at some point they will, but at least it's not ready for prime time yet. But it's good for getting ideas, right?
A lot of this is in draft format. I mean, that disclaimer should go there. This is draft.
But they don't do that. They say that.
But they don't do that. Exactly.
Ready. It's safe. And, we can throw it in. And that really is the problem. There's, and the other thing. One of my biggest findings from GTC is that there's no security for this stuff. The only thing you can do is like literally, they talk about confidential computing, but that's not security, right? That's trust. It's a basis for secure security. But you're basically saying we have to isolate this entire compute data center from the rest of the world. It's like Battlestar Galactica, right? That's what confidential computing really boils down to. You know, no, our show is amazing. Oh, by the way, 10,000 downloads is a big friggin' deal. That probably means 1 million listens, or not million, 100,000 at least, and that's pretty good for a show that has IoT in it, which nobody seems to.
We haven't been thrown off the air.
Yeah, this show may be the most successful IoT venture out there, actually.
Yeah, and we don't really get together because of IoT. We get together because we're trying to help bridge the digital equity divide, people. So yeah, we should. Yeah, IoT Coffee Talk is all about elevate our kids. So remember to buy your shirt if you're not into charity, but you love fashion and you want to look sexy. I mean, this is
sexy IoT person.
Hey man, if your whole family, if your whole organization is wearing IoT Coffee Talk t-shirt, that's pretty damn sexy, I'm telling you. Yeah.
By the way, Dimitri, I liked that initial camera angle you had. I think it was like your whole room or something. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
AI gone well.
Yeah, you can see how much of a geek I am.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Anyway, it's what's up, Bill?
Just hanging, man. Listening to what's going on here, and I mean, you mentioned security, right? I mean, about across all of these LLMs and whatnot. What about transparency?
Forget about that.
What about? I mean, what about transparency? There is none of that.
Well, it's a black box, man. That's what everybody's saying. So, how do you expect transparency from a black box?
Well, look, I'm saying though, whenever we say the black box, I mean that's what's in those airplanes, right? And when they crash, they just go get the black box
for a cargo ship
because it lived,
right?
You know.
Well, it'd be nice to know, like for every model, what was it trained on? You know, I'm not sure how you do that or how you communicate that in a way that is valuable, but it would be nice to know what is the data set that this thing was trained on. But you know, that could be
that would be part of transparency, right? I mean,
yeah, sure. And that would have to be more of a regulatory thing or some sort of best practice. But yeah, we're not
proprietary.
Yeah, the other aspect of that is also, the data you're putting into, because when you interact with this model, all your prompts goes into the system. What do they do with it? Do they keep them for retraining? So there's a whole transparency story around here.
Yeah. No, that's not built in. Hey, Rob.
Howdy.
What's up?
Man, he's looking studly.
I know. Cleaned up.
Yeah.
Got like a little Superman curly Q there too.
A little curly Q. That's right. Yes. So I'm down here kind of running and I'm in Houston. It's a carbon tracking and reporting conference, which probably sounds really thrilling to you guys.
Well, I mean, are they tracking the carbon in Houston? Because they're
trying. There's a lot. Might be the carbon capital of the world. You never know.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But that's
amazing location for such a conference, right?
That's a good idea.
You know what?
We should do the carbon capital of the year.
There's no shortage of irony when you're in Houston. You've got a lot of green technology companies all launching in Houston of all places. So yeah, it's kind of funny, even though, but everybody in attendance here, it's the who's who's. They're all from the super major oil companies, but they all work in the ESG sustainability departments. So,
although I heard Texas is the #1 producer of green renewable energy in the country.
True. It is. I know people don't believe it, but there's more windmills here than anywhere. Solar, yeah.
Well, they hedged a lot of bets a long time ago.
It's a big place.
Well, I mean, you got to, because the damn grid doesn't work.
There's that. Yeah.
Well, there's the power generation, and then there's the grid, right? And like, you can have a ton of power generation, but if your grid is faulty, then
how do you deliver it?
Right.
Yes.
That's a different issue.
We used to boast. I remember back in the year 2000, I was working with a lot of the utilities here when we went to electricity deregulation. Some of you, especially if you ever happen to live in California, might remember a company named Enron.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Sad.
Yeah, which I did consulting at Enron.
Like,
too young for that.
Too
Yeah.
young.
Too young to remember that.
Anyway, but yes, having this ERCOT and having its own grid that's not connected to the rest of the country used to be a source of pride, but not so much anymore.
So, Rob, the big money in sustainability in Texas is to find prairie land to stick wind generator, props and everything else onto farms. That's where they're storing them now. A friend of mine out of West Texas has got over 100 acres of just blades piled up 30 feet up in the air.
I'm so glad you told me that, because I've got a ranch about 25 miles out of Fredericksburg. It's a whole lot of land. I could spare 1,000 acres to hold turbine blades.
Yeah, sure. Why
Money.
not?
They decided they did not need to put them into the canyons where the spent nuclear rods are anymore. They can now pile them up.
Okay.
I see. Interesting. I understand that the biggest shortage in the electrical system these days is in the transformers. There's a huge supply issue with just the transformers, and if you want to make some money, get in the transformer business, and but it's a whole supply chain kind of complexity there.
No,
And you know how
because it's driven by all of the electrification, right? I mean, everybody's looking at how do we get these fleets electrified? How do and I mean, and it's truly the cart before the horse, right? I mean, because there's a whole planning piece of it, and then there's the demand piece of it, and then it's like an unreliable grid already.
Right.
So it's like, how do we exacerbate the problem?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like the recurring revenue from, wind turbines sitting on a piece of land out in West Texas, though. I like that.
I'm going to go with that.
That's
easier. That's easier than herding cattle, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with that. Yeah.
I mean, but how do you get the recurring revenue there, right? It's an arbitrage exercise more than anything.
Yeah, but these guys have got to put it somewhere, so they got to pay for it.
Yeah, but how do you deal with
I guess the utility pays you a lease, I guess, right? So
Correct. Yeah, correct.
you're putting kilowatts.
interesting?
You're putting kilowatts into the grid, and they're paying you 20 cents a kilowatt or whatever you're generating. So,
Yeah.
I tell you what's interesting about this conference. It may not seem interesting to you, but a lot of people are on the hook. All these super major and every oil company, you have so many different regulations for reporting emissions. Whether it's the EU, whether it's the SEC passed rules, California has their own rules that are stronger than the U.S. rules. Shocker, they always are. You probably never heard of things like scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. It's crazy, but so there's it went from a nice to have to do virtue signaling, saying we care about the country or the environment, to now there's hard regulations, but it's a mess. So go figure. Yeah. I guess you got to do
no
it.
shortage of work to do, right? No shortage.
It's a tax you have to pay. It's like reporting to the EPA and things like that. You just have to do it.
Right.
So there you have it. And there is an IoT tie-in to all this.
I was waiting for
Sure.
Yeah.
Sensors on site tell you what's going on with that methane or the noxious gases or things like that. So,
isn't there also like the amp standard for measuring power usage for utilities and stuff? This AMPS standard,
There's a lot of metering in that already.
A lot of smart metering going on, which is pretty cool actually. To see consumption. So,
and recently a satellite went up that's just doing nothing but looking down at methane across the whole country. So it's kind of interesting. But yes,
fart
it was
farts.
huh?
Farts in space. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, that's right.
Space-based fart analysis. I think that's what they call it.
That's going to be the.
I mean, you look at all the cows, and there's got to be a lot of that, right?
Cows are one of the major sources of methane. So
Yeah, true.
Leonard, we just lost 10,000 more viewers just now.
There you go.
But I'll tell you, the other interesting thing I've learned is as many regulations as they're out now, there's just as many lawsuits going back at it. There's 26 states with different lawsuits against the government saying, we think this is capricious, it's an overreach, and we're not going to do it. And so there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of, You know how it is when you're a big business making money and they tell you to do something that's going to hurt your business. How many businesses, we've already seen a lot of businesses of different types leave California already. California is going to have stronger Scope 3 emissions requirements than the rest of the country. And Scope 3 measurements is crazy. It's like other people's emissions, like your suppliers' emissions and stuff that you don't control. And so at some point, there's a cost-benefit analysis of, is it worth it for me to stay in California or not, right? Just depends, how much business you already have there, I suppose.
Depends on how much they convert that into innovation that can be commercialized and then, maybe, sold to other countries. I mean, we have to keep in mind that China is making big advancements in these areas, even though we like to, in the US would like to think that China is doing crap and, just being gratuitous about stuff. They have to out of necessity because otherwise people, everyone's going to have asthma, right?
We've all been to Beijing and we know what that's like. It's
for those of us who are old enough, we know what LA was like.
It was brown. Yeah,
LA was really bad, and it's just like weird how we have short memories. But hey, guys, Yen, I'm going to put the spotlight on Yen really quick because this dude, he's jumped on an episode, didn't say a freaking damn thing, and that's wrong. So
I know. I had a short bit of time there.
A little bit of time there, and we got to give Andreea because she's the only woman representing, and it's just it's a dude fest right now. So, what do you want to talk about? What's your reaction? And if you're nervous, that's good because something good's going to come.
Nervous.
What's up in IoT 4.0 Industry 4.0 land?
Nothing much from last time, I think. We're going to have a quarterly update on Industry 4.0 here next week.
Oh, cool.
So we basically, what we do is we take the IoT Insight report and look at what CEOs are talking about right now, what's important to them, and then we're going to have a kind of discussion about that. And we have a lot of events coming up. So Hannibal Mess is coming up. So we typically work with the IoT world. So we're looking to see what we can do there together. And then there's a Automate coming up in Detroit that I think we have a couple of people going to.
Detroit Rock City.
Detroit Rock City, yeah. Yeah.
So we have a lot of stuff going on right now. We have right now we're doing 2 events or 2 live streams per week. Full steam. We're starting up our what we call people, process, and culture again. So we have a couple of new founders that's going to look into that, which is driving the Gen Zs and millennials into manufacturing, trying to help figure out what how do we improve that, and women as well.
Oh. But this is more an Industry 5.0 things, if I heard that well, because
I just threw up in my
mouth. Or is it a 4.5? I think it's more of a 4.5.
But seriously, it's
4.4. I think it's around 4.4. Yeah.
Because what I've heard is that it's been upgraded to 5.0, where we actually put humans in the loop.
It's still a 3.9 actually. 3.9.
We're at 3.9.
No, but more seriously, the reason I was mentioning that, Jan, is because when you say involving more people, except the new generation, what I read on Industry 5.0 is actually bringing people within the context of robots and automation kind of things, and the umbrella of ESG, which I think is a good direction to take. Be sustainable, environmental friendly, and making sure that people and machine coexist effectively.
They did the Industry 4.0, and then we're talking about everything's going to be automated, and then hey, holy SIHT, and then we got to make sure we get people back in. So Industry 5.0, now we're going to figure out how people can interact with the technology and make feel that they're good. Yeah.
I did have lunch. I did have lunch with Mr. Industry 4.0 in Dallas last week with Walker Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had lunch last week in Dallas, so that was good hanging out with him and talking about what were we talking about? Oh, unified namespace. Shocker. Yeah, we need to have him on the show sometime.
Yeah,
that would actually be a fun show.
For sure.
Good.
For sure. He doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
He stirs the pot dramatically.
Yeah.
All right, I'm out of here.
So Jan, do you do any more shows in Clubhouse, or is it only LinkedIn?
It's only LinkedIn.
Only LinkedIn.
Yeah, we found that our viewers and participants are really on the industry side much more, and on the business side, and LinkedIn is a much better place for that.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
It's not a really
go
good.
back and run the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Adios.
Have a good time.
By the way, speaking of platforms, so I did a 1-minute recap of NVIDIA GTC on TikTok, and I'm up to about 8,000 views as of this morning. So,
Oh, really?
there seems to be an appetite for learning about that stuff in 60 seconds. So, speaking of
I wanted to bring this up earlier, but it was before Dimitri joined. So I'm glad he joined, because it's a better topic to bring up when he's here. So last week we talked about the GTC and then the innovation at NVIDIA, right? And Dimitri brought up a point that's been obsessing me for a week.
I'm sorry.
No, it's a good thing, right? Give somebody to think about is that, there's not a whole lot of innovation there in terms of NVIDIA's work. And Pete, you are not with us, so I'd love to hear your take on that. Right.
Oh, in terms of the NVIDIA's work?
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought I think, and I don't want to recap everything you guys talked about last week, but the Blackwell is just, it's bigger, it's more, it's NVLink, it's more of the same, which is great. And that sets a new baseline for data centers and intense data centers. I actually thought, and I'm actually going to talk about this tomorrow, not to plug the TinyML forum that's happening tomorrow that you can register for free at, but I'm going to talk about the GR00T foundational model or observational learning for robot platforms. I thought actually that was really interesting. So getting more generative AI model architectures and techniques into robotics platforms. And then they have something called Osmo, which is kind of like a workload orchestration for robotic AI. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought if I had to pick one thing, Blackwell's cool, right? Because it's gigantic and huge and amazing and 208 billion transistors. But I think the GR00T foundational model for observational learning will turn out to make kind of general purpose robotics a thing in the next 5 to 10 years. So that was innovative, super. And Deeputala did a good talk. It's online. To talk about some of that stuff. So yeah, I think they've got some pretty cool tricks in the bag above and beyond just, more better chips. I think they're trying to apply it in new ways. And the idea of generating, is not just about language. It's like the transformer models, even like vision transformers. Like how do you do, object recognition using a vision transformer model as opposed to a CNN model? To recognize objects and describe a complex scene. We used to use CNNs in AI vision all the time, which is great because you could see, hot dog, no hot dog. But now using a vision transformer, you can describe the whole thing, and that's generative AI as well. So I think it's one of the things that kind of got me excited was how do you take that concept and apply it to some of these other areas in the edge and IoT world, like whether it's robotics or vision to make it work. So I thought that was worth a shout out.
So Pete, because I didn't pay close attention as the GR00T announcement, but are you saying that this platform architecture or whatever it is goes beyond just inference? It also goes into local learning and improving.
Yeah. So it's like a learning model based on observation and imitation, with reinforcement learning. And so as opposed to, I guess, more traditional kind of robot training, which is very, rigid. So I thought that was a pretty cool way of like taking the concept of generative AI and applying it to some of these more rigid kind of constructs that we've had out there with like robots.
So it's using Gen AI to make the robot learn.
Yes.
kind of what it is, right? Okay, but the model that is used to make the robot learn is still a Gen AI model that is generated.
It is. It's a large language model, right? Yeah, but they're using it for kind of observational learning, they call it, so that you could do this and then it will do this.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys. Did you guys see the OpenAI robot video? API robot, I think they call it.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So it was a robot standing in front of a kitchen table with some stuff on it, and he asked the OpenAI robot, "What do you see?" And they described what's in front of them, including him standing there with his hand on the table. And then he basically gives it some tasks and describes why. So, for example, there was an apple there and says, "Hey, I'm hungry. Give me something to eat." And the robot takes the only thing that's edible on the table and gives him the apple.
Yeah.
And then he has him clean up. There were some dishes that need to go in a dish rack, and ask him what should you do with those. I should put them in a dish rack. Put them in a dish rack.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And then he kills him, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. They cut that off. They cut that off.
cut
that part off. But no, but see, this is the other interesting thing that came out of GTC is now, there's what do you call it? Reinforced learning, human feedback, right? Mm-hmm. Jensen was toward the end of his keynote was talking about or mentioned this thing called reinforcement learning physical feedback, meaning that he's suggesting that robots will learn by interacting with the physical world. But yeah, the accidentally killing someone part is probably part of that physical feedback. It doesn't know in rules situations. But okay, so let's do the sniff test here. Here's the problem that I see consistently across the board with any of this AI stuff. These are very selective things that people are showing you. The demos are usually highly hit and miss. In fact, Jensen's on stage, one of the robots doesn't follow the instructions.
Right.
What's the likelihood of that happening given how...
I think the other one kind of just shut down too.
Yeah. And
where's the battery?
Yeah, before you get mystified by the magic, which in these cases magic is a bad word, kick the tires. If you're out there and you are a vendor, you're an end user, and you see this stuff, and if you're really looking at putting the stuff in the field or even contemplating that,
years
crazy on this stuff, because this smells just like autonomous vehicle hype from 2016, when you had people and governments actually planning on autonomous vehicles and fleets of autonomous cabs going mainstream in 2021. And we're at
people need to put their own filter and then time scale. So I was saying like 5 to 10 years, for this kind of robot platforms to really be usable.
Who knows? Because that's what they were putting time scales to autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
Now they've basically kicked it off to never. It's.
And I think you're definitely right. I think it's something probably important. It might sound obvious to some, but I think for our listeners, it's probably very important, because we're now in an era where, I said that several times, the interaction with the system is based on senses. What you see, what you hear. Before, if you had to look at what was the output of a model, you pretty much have to be a statistician to understand it.
No.
So the advice is you get under the hood. You have to understand how the thing works, at least at a certain level of details, because otherwise you're fooled by the thing talking to you or the image you see and say, oh yeah, it's magic. No, it's not freaking magic. Open the hood. And that's what I was alluded to when I was asking about the robots earlier, Pete, because to me, the thing is, right now we still operate on a model where you train a model, it might take months or hours or weeks, and then we apply the model. We have no technology that close that loop in like a kid does by watching how you to put a pie, to put the dough on a pie. You show that to a kid, 2 seconds later, I can do that. And I don't see any AI that can do that today. So again, people look under the hood, try to understand how the things work, what are the stakes, because otherwise you're going to get fooled by the language, you're going to get fooled by the visual, fooled by the video, fooled by the sound, fooled by your grandma who's already dead calling you and tell you to transfer some money. So so go under the hood. It's much more important nowadays.
Right. Yeah, and I would question anyone that sits there and tells you how these guys are, just being grumpy. It's like, no, this is called due diligence. It's about being smart about things. And then the other thing is, like chatbots. 90% of a lot of the stuff that you're seeing is just like friggin' front ending of a chatbot. And, people may not recall the hype around chatbots just a few years ago. And here's the thing. This is why I like listening back on our episodes, and I encourage our listeners to do the same. Now that we have like a friggin' library of over 200 episodes, there's a temporal factor in what we've done here in IoT Coffee Talk. Just go back and listen to some of the old stuff. Things like what you mentioned just now, Pete, about using transformers for other functions other than LLMs. Something we already said could potentially be a good vector of innovation for this Gen AI stuff, but it's used as in a sensor function, right? That's really super cool. But you know what I'm saying? But we have all these other perspectives that we've brought to the table for our audience. For 4 years.
Maybe we need to train a chatbot on our old episodes.
That was what I was thinking. But to Bill's point earlier, to me, this is also part of transparency. At some point, we're going to need to have kind of a classification of what those things are. Is it just a stupid chatbot that is based on rule? Or is it using a chat GPT 3.x? Or no, it's a GPT 4. So this is part of transparency as well. How does the bot work inside?
Kind of like the restaurant grading, grade A, grade B, don't eat here,
Exactly.
Grade C.
Well, right now, they all have don't eat here.
That's right.
I'm like, no.
I mean, it's like the analogy of the nutrition label. There should be a nutrition label on
something like that. Yeah, and I think that's transparency is and auditability.
Exactly.
Are key, and there's nothing in there right now. So
the reason I'm
but you run into privacy issues, right, with transparency. So but
I don't know that you run into privacy issues because their transparency is just one component, right? So you've got trust, transparency, provenance, and governance. That's a foundational requirement across the board, and these things are not instituted in any of the models that are put out today.
No, and then because of fear of privacy issues, especially here in the US, right? So I think transparency in this I don't disagree with you a bit. The transparency in this context needs to be redefined.
Well, it's orthogonal. Transparency is orthogonal to governance and provenance. Governance and provenance deal with privacy, but transparency is how it works. It's not
it is. Yes, but there's a fine line. There's a fine line. That's why I say it would have to be redefined.
Hey, you know what? We got to get Debbie Reynolds on, Data Diva. This.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, no. We got to get her on, and then we got to get her on so that we can make this less of a dude fest.
Well, I mean, get her on
and let her drop her knowledge, man.
There are a couple ladies that I'd like to invite as well from NIST. And I mean, so let's bring and let's make it a real conversation around what's being done.
Yeah, and make sure that they come with their music requests for bad karaoke.
Although Foo Fighters, nothing wrong with Foo Fighters. It's good.
Nothing wrong at all. It's only wrong when Rob's not there. He's not in early enough to sing for us.
Well, pluses and minuses.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
He is. We have, a couple of plane crash moments, but there's a few moments where he actually delivered, and he's totally down with that grunge stuff. But okay, Steve, you're too quiet. Yeah, I'm like the
Florida. What's happening?
Police. Make sure everyone.
March Madness. That's what's happening. That's what's on Steve's mind.
No, I'm shooting. I'm making 200 baskets a day, preparing for the Pan American Games in 2 weeks.
Wow,
really?
Oh.
For you.
So But I was at Enterprise Connect in Orlando for the last couple of days.
How was that? Why is it?
Not what it used to be. How's that?
What does that mean? Intriguing.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's a vendor fest. It's not a lot of end users and not a lot of sales to them.
I see. Vendors talking to vendors.
Yeah, I'm doing video conferencing in a room, so I'm going to go talk to the TV guys. Who are going to talk to the content guys, and Zoom is there, and Vonage, and Microsoft, and Verizon Business, and all them. And so it was, I went to 2 AI sessions. Interesting, how to integrate video conferencing and CV into AI and utilizing that. It was like almost like a far-fetched idea, and they kind of came back at the end to trying to explain it a bit easier and better. But it was okay.
Yeah.
Gaylord's a beautiful place in Orlando, but
I wonder if there'll be a pendulum shift back to almost too many in-person events around the industry between AI and everything else. I know I'm starting to get flooded with speaking requests and other things every week. I mean, I'm just supposed to be double booked tomorrow. I said I couldn't do it, so it's like, hopefully, people, it doesn't turn into a bunch of events where vendors are talking to vendors. You got to have some customers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's, Jan's doing the one in Greenville. It's very specific, and it will be attended by really high quality attendees.
Yeah, more narrowly focused. I think that's the way to go. Yeah.
I think Nuremberg's going to be huge, right? I mean,
EW, yeah, massive.
It's going to be the biggest one. But then when I see it move to Austin in the fall, I mean, how many are we going to have? A couple thousand people, maybe, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's the show in Austin?
Embedded World's going to Austin.
Oh shit! All right.
Are you serious?
They're trying their first U.S.-based program.
Well, it kind of makes sense, MWC, Vegas in the fall. I can see the U.S., Asia kind of satellite shows. I mean, although GTC last week was like so packed. I mean, like we were talking at Leonard, it was almost like they needed more space.
Yeah.
To kind of handle everybody.
It was crazy. I tried to go to the expo floor on Thursday morning. I couldn't park. There was no parking nowhere. So I turned around for 20 minutes and I went to the beach. But seriously, I went to Santa Cruz and said, I can't park.
I did not expect that, Dimitri.
We can tell by the glowing tan you got there, bud.
Yeah, my camera is not set up well. No, but I maybe to tolerance for those kind of things. I mean, turn around 20 minutes, come back a parking spot in San Jose.
Yeah, I mean, I hate Las Vegas. No offense to people who live in Las Vegas, but I think
it works.
Probably most of them hate Las Vegas too.
It works. Yeah, it works.
But man,
but I think Santa Clara Convention Center works better for for that sensors converge move from downtown to Santa Clara. So because of that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I actually have a board meeting.
They're busting. Yeah, they're busting my chops like going out there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah,
when is it?
June 12th. June.
Yeah.
I have to check that. It's in my back.
Bill, you got Smart Cities show coming up, right, in New York?
Yeah, there's that. But I've been spending a lot of my time going to fleet shows as of late. I mean, that one's got me. That whole movement right there has got me like totally engulfed in terms of what we're going to do because of the net impact it can have across the board. And I mean, so I've been spending a lot of times there. So I'm heading to Louisville and Atlanta. And I mean, it's weird that these shows are happening there and it's all, it started out as all heavy equipment type stuff. And now they're bringing the tech piece of it in because they're like, we have to do this. So now from a fleet perspective, there's telematics, there's route planning, there's, energy consumption, there's distribution. I mean, there's so much of it and you're starting to see these things converge. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, there's a world of challenge associated with doing any of this stuff just on the fleet side. Yet you look at the consumer side and it's even larger.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, a lot of that stuff. A lot of that stuff happening in edge computing side of things too. I mean, we saw a lot of that MWC, right? But it's starting to come together. It's there's a lot of fragmentation. That's the big problem. Just like IoT, you know what I'm saying? It's just interesting to see how these. It's almost like similar dynamics play out in different domains. It's crazy, but they all.
But we've been talking about fleet. What has changed, Bill? Because we've been talking about fleet management for decades now. I remember a friend of mine in the late 80s leaving the company I was working with him to go do this kind of optimization of routes with digitizing cards by hand. And then when I was at Sybase with the mobile technology, we had all this fleet management where we're going to put little mini Windows C computers. So it didn't happen. So what is going to make it happen now that is different?
You got to look at what's driving it, right? The decarbonization. That's the big driver, is decarbonization and the move to EVs. So they're saying, right, once you do that, now the big challenge becomes, I've run my routes and each truck has its own separate route. So do you need to charge to 100%? I think that's a fallacy, right? You don't need to charge it. You need to charge to the route. So you have a group of vehicles pull in and they're going to charge. So how many depots do you have? How many charging stations do you have? What's your transformer to depot ratio look like? That's what's driving all of the conversation. And then if you're on a route and you need to charge, then how does that driver know where the next charging station is? So there's this convergence of shifting from ICE vehicles to EVs. Then how do you maintain all of that? And what's happening is now they want to manage that charging. So they don't want you just to roll up, plug in, and drive that demand through the roof where you're having rolling brownouts in neighboring cities. They want to actually say, go ahead, plug in. We recognize that you're there in stall number 20. We're going to start charging you because you only need X number of kilowatt hours, on. We're going to manage you and we're going to charge you at the lowest rate. We're going to charge you at the, And so they're wanting to do that for the fleets, but at the same time, now they're extending that to the consumers. So I see I think it's a movement. You're right. It's been happening. Fleet management has been around forever, but not in this capacity.
Right. It sounds like a problem for quantum computing is what it sounds like.
Well, maybe there's an interesting idea here because, if you do the parallel with what Tesla has done, I think what I think Tesla has really done is that they've actually made the computing power at the center of the vehicle. One of the issues, I think, in the past generation is that we do purpose-built devices. We do GPSs, we do this, we do that. So if you go for a model where the edge is actually much more reprogrammable and OTA and things like that, you can adjust to this new dynamic. So then maybe the angle is, instead of putting an optimization of charging device in your fleet, put a freaking edge and then update the software regularly to the new use cases. Because that's one of the problem you have even with personal vehicles. When I bought a Jeep Cherokee for my wife in 2014, and the thing has a computer that is barely powerful enough to run the software now.
Sure.
So it cannot be upgraded. So maybe,
but that requires re-engineering the whole vehicle practically.
Exactly. So if we can disconnect that, but let's put an edge that actually have some kind of 2-3 years at least of upgradability, and then it can be a much more dynamic over-the-air model. Could be something interesting. So, anyway,
but part of the big challenge that you've had just with the EV side of it has been that. So what plug do you use? I've seen so many people have 5 different plugs because it's not standardized, but there is an Open Charge Alliance that's trying to standardize on the plug. And Tesla has, Elon Musk kind of killed it, right? He killed it with this because standardizing on the charge plug, standardizing on the charge station, he's like, I am the standard. Man. So, now it's, how do you talk to these vehicles, right? Especially when you're looking at the communication and And to Andrea's point, there's definitely a privacy piece of it, because that information exchange that's going from the vehicle to the charge station and everything else has all of your information in there. It's tied to the vehicle.
And I'm going to say, as the senior citizen of this group, Dimitri, I'm a diesel petro person. This shit works. I don't have to worry about the plug. Just freaking put the pump thing in there, and it fills up my tractor trailers.
God bless. God bless.
You're
Unbelievable. But Dimitri, the number one thing is still high value asset tracking. No matter what we do, it's still coming off of the manufacturing facility at Ingersoll Rand. Is a sensor on a pallet with high value assets that goes through the supply chain, tracking that unit. That's still the number one selling IoT thing in the world.
I'm glad you said it, and I think Jan agrees.
But the tech exists for that, so why is not everywhere? The tech exists. That's what I'm trying to start.
I mean, it is. I mean, right now, there are millions and millions of pallets being set.
But I mean, at the end of the day, and we can throw out a million use cases, and I bet the answer is the tech exists for that.
It does. Right now, I always say this in my speeches. Today is the best day to be in IoT. You can find anything and everything to solve any problem to anybody in the entire world, no matter where you are. Yeah, exactly. From expensive stuff to cheap stuff.
Yen, what's up? You're mute, dude. You're mute.
You're mute, Ken.
See, you've been quiet for so long.
It was so quiet, we couldn't figure out why. So now we know.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Hey, one good thing is that the problem you're having, even though you have the tech is there, you got the solution, the reason why it's not pervasive yet is all the things about digital transformation. So if you're thinking about this integrated into a supply chain, even for Ingersoll Rand, right? That the complexity of getting all the right data and getting it back and utilizing it, that it's easy enough to create the IoT solution, but get that integrated into all the other systems. That where the struggle is.
Yeah, I mean, we presented to the NIST group on some of the standards and some of the things that have come out over the last 2 weeks, and they kept on saying the data. I said, well, we're only looking at like 10% of the data that's generated in the IoT supply chain world. So what are you asking for?
Right.
I mean, what do you want to do with it? Where do you want it? Well, we'll give it to you, but what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, it all depends on what kind.
Right.
The data.
Yeah, but I keep on. Yeah, I keep on thinking that it's because the edges are not flexible enough. Because those problems can be solved by software. I mean, if you have a new plug, a new protocol, a new whatever data, if you have enough compute power on the edge, you just push an update and then you can change. So I think this the thinking of how much compute we put in those machines to enable use case that has been wrong. But I mean, it's just me. So.
Well, the other thing too is that you put the edge where in a tractor trailer. Is it in the trailer or is it in the tractor? I mean, and so if you're changing trailers, the trailer has got to have the connectivity and the sensors to go into the edge boxes.
But that's my point. That's my point. You put in both and you put enough so that you can update and change. Yeah. And I think we haven't break that kind of embedded system paradigm where you put something that is purpose built. It's not generic enough. So we're not benefiting for the software-defined concept yet. To me, that's probably what is missing. But anyway.
Yeah, and I
don't know. I mean, I'm on the OCA, and I mean, I've been there for the last 2 years, ever since they started talking about the open charge point protocol. And you would be in, I mean, just the workflow to get a vehicle to charge. Is ridiculous. It is wild. I mean, it for 2 years we've been at it, and there's still not a standard ratified.
I can use Gen AI to do that. Train it on all the protocols.
There's no magic. I think that's the problem.
I'm serious. Maybe there's a way.
I can tell you this, and some people suggested that, and I lit the room up with get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. You cannot get Gen AI with its lack of security and lack of anything else to go through all of these things and just come out with, here you go, this is it.
That's
you know what? You want to do that?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I heard from Jensen last week. All those robots are going to get smart. So you just put the robot into the car and
Sure.
go to charge itself.
Why we're X-rated.
That's right. Not for children. This video is not for children.
X-rated IoT tech show in the world.
I recommend everyone go get one of these.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the next IoT Coffee Talk T-shirt.
That's it.
My favorite T-shirt is, if you don't like my opinions, you should know what I keep for myself.
Well, you know what? Hey, Dimitri, you made a great point. If your approach doesn't work, maybe you're doing it wrong. People get married to wrong approaches. So I don't know. It's great that you guys are fighting with each other. That it's really
fighting. We're having
it's a difference. I mean, there's opinions, and
you're fighting. On that note,
no, it's an exchange of ideas. Every time I have a conversation here, I change my mind. So
fighting.
Good.
Yeah, Dimitri, I'm trying to get Bill to actually fill up with gas.
Hey, by the way, I'm totally with you, Pete. Steve, sorry. The only thing I would remove is diesel, because I mean diesel is for trucks.
Yeah, it's just so hard. I mean,
diesel is for trucks.
Yeah, you got millions and millions of them out there. It's just so hard to get rid of it. It's just like people. I mean, there's leases still for millions and millions.
Yeah.
It's just so hard. I mean, if there was an alternative method that the large trucking companies could switch over, they would, but they can't.
Yeah. Just all remember, most of the world is poor, and that gets in the way of all these dreams and aspirations.
I know.
Weird nirvana. It's sad but true. But anyways, great discussion, guys. Who wants to take us out? Oh my God. Okay. Hey everyone, thanks for hanging out with us. I can't believe these guys, don't want to take upon this, very honorable role of taking out this episode, but thanks for listening in. We really appreciate your listenership. Hopefully you made it this far. Wow, good for you. Excuse me. And remember, we do this every week. Not only because we really love to have these discussions around technology and IoT and how it's not going anywhere. Just kidding. It's going everywhere. But we do this because, quite honestly, it's about bridging the digital divide. That's kind of like our underlying mission. And so please consider donating to Elevate Our Kids at www.elevateourkids.org. Okay, O-R-G. And then if you're not into charity, but you're into fashion, come on, let's hold them up. IoT Coffee Talk t-shirts and hoodies. They're beautiful. Your whole family, your entire organization will look sexy as hell. So, go and order yours today. And remember, we're here every week at www.iotcoffeetalk.com, and we will see you, next week.
Next week.
Take care, guys.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.
Bye.